Saturday, February 22, 2025, 2:20 a.m. A woman lies lifeless on the floor of her own home. A mother. A partner. A victim of a brutal attack. In the moments that followed, she fought to hold on, her last breath stolen by someone who was supposed to protect her. How did it come to this? How did a man, once a protector, become the very thing he swore to never be? A life ended in an instant, and a child left behind in the wake of the violence. This isn't just another case of domestic violence. It's a story of betrayal, rage, and a pride so deep it left a woman fighting for her life, until there was no fight left to give. Who was she? And what happened in the hours leading to that fateful night? She was found by first responders, her body battered, her face unrecognizable from the blows that ended her life. She had no chance. And neither did the man who thought he could escape the wrath of his own actions. The camera lingers on a single item in the room, her phone, still flashing with unanswered messages. Then, the scene shifts to a child's toy left on the floor, untouched. And who could have done this to her? What pushed a man to take a life in such a violent, uncontrollable rage? This is the story of Andrei Romulus. A man who let his anger take control, who let pride dictate his every action. But beneath it all, there's a deeper question. Was he truly a monster, or a man broken by his own fears? What drove him to cross that line? This isn't just a case of domestic violence. This is something more. Something that started long before that fateful night, and something that would leave a community forever changed.
Welcome to Shocking True Crime. Thanks to all our viewers and subscribers for your support. Stay with us for daily updates on the most shocking true crime stories. Don't forget to subscribe.
At 42, Andrei Romulus was a man like any other on the surface. A father, a boyfriend, someone with responsibilities. But behind closed doors, his emotions ran far deeper than any external appearance could show. What could turn a man into a killer? What secrets did he keep from the world? Romulus had always struggled with his own demons. A man born of pride, desperate to prove his worth, yet trapped in a cycle of emotional instability. His love for the woman who would later become his victim was tangled in a need to control her, to possess her completely. His love wasn't love at all, it was a tight grasp, suffocating in its intensity. His triggers were simple: fear of abandonment, fear of humiliation. Every word, every action from the woman he loved seemed to confirm his greatest fears, that she might leave him, that he might not be enough. And in the moment that he could no longer control his rage, the worst of him came out. He couldn't bear to lose her, so he decided, once and for all, that if he couldn't have her, no one could. She was a woman who sought a life beyond the chaos. A mother to a young child, she had left behind an abusive past in search of stability. But she never knew just how far her efforts to break free would push the man she loved. Her trust in him was slowly eroded by emotional manipulation, his control masked as love. But there were still moments when she fought for herself, when she tried to assert her independence, when she sought a life for her child that wasn't defined by fear. But as much as she fought to break free, she couldn't have anticipated just how far Andrei's possessiveness would go. The child, caught in the crossfire, remains the silent witness to this tragic act. What role did the child play in the events leading to the crime, and how will this young life cope with the aftermath of violence? Caught between two worlds, the child is forced to live with the aftermath, a life irrevocably changed, a future altered. The ripple effect of violence doesn't stop with the victim, but extends to everyone caught in its path. On the evening of February 22, 2025, everything seemed normal. Romulus sent a text to a friend, an ominous cry for help. "She left me with the kid. I can't do this." But the evening took a dark turn before anyone realized what was coming. Romulus was a man on the edge, trapped in a whirlwind of his own emotions. He was overwhelmed, desperate. But what he didn't admit in that text was the anger that had been building inside him for days, weeks, even months. The frustration, the hurt, the rage, all of it was being funneled into those few lines. She left me with the kid, Romulus said. But it wasn't just about the child. It was about his pride, his control, and how deeply he felt embarrassed. He blamed her for everything that had gone wrong in their life together. And in his mind, she had embarrassed him. He wasn't just angry. He was humiliated. What Romulus didn't say in those texts was how far his anger had already gone. Behind every word, there was an escalation, one that would soon turn deadly. What happened between 1:37 a.m. and 2:20 a.m.? The timeline is fractured, but the truth is haunting. When the police arrived at the home on West Washington Street, it was already too late. The woman was found lifeless in a pool of blood. First responders rushed to her side, working frantically to save her, but it was no use. The woman's injuries were too severe. Her life had already been stolen by the violent hand that struck her down. Walking in, you could just feel it. The blood on the floor, it was everywhere. The first thing that hits you is the overwhelming sense that something horrific had happened. And then you see the victim, and you know. This wasn't a tragic fall. This was intentional. We thought we had a clear picture right away, but as we dug deeper, we realized this wasn't just a case of a broken relationship. There was something far darker behind it. The woman had suffered blunt force trauma to her face, repeated strikes to the head. The forensic team confirmed what the officers feared: this was no accident. The woman had suffered blunt force trauma, several strikes to her face that left her barely recognizable. Her injuries were consistent with a violent, unrestrained attack. This wasn't a crime of passion, it was something much colder. But what the officers didn't know was that they were only seeing part of the truth. What had truly happened between Romulus and the woman hours before her death? What went on behind closed doors that led to this unspeakable act? As the investigation continued, the officers pieced together fragments of a larger story. A story of anger, betrayal, and a relationship that had spiraled beyond repair. But the question remained: why had Romulus gone this far? The truth was still buried beneath the surface. The pieces were all there, but no one could yet see the full picture. And what they didn't know was that this was only the beginning of a much darker tale, a tale that would unravel with every step they took in their search for answers. When Romulus fled the scene, he thought he could escape. But the law was already on his trail. A manhunt began, but with every passing hour, the trail grew colder. The police acted quickly, issuing an alert to every agency in the state. Local law enforcement, state troopers, and even the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force were all involved. Romulus was on the run, but so were the pieces of the puzzle. When Romulus went on the run, it wasn't just a search for a man, it was a race against time. We knew every second we spent searching was another second he had to get farther away. We needed to catch him, and we needed to do it fast. We tracked his phone for a while, but it was clear he knew how to cover his tracks. We followed leads that came up dry. He moved quickly, changing locations, using multiple routes, and at one point, even using a different car to throw us off his trail. The more time passed, the more desperate we became. While Romulus hid, new clues began to surface. False leads. Discrepancies. But none of it led to the truth, not until investigators unearthed messages hidden in his apartment. Romulus had left behind more than just a trail of lies. His apartment held secrets, hidden messages that painted a clearer picture of his intentions. He wasn't just running from the crime. He was running from the guilt, from the reality of what he had done. Every piece of the puzzle seemed to fit, yet one question still loomed: what drove Romulus to kill the woman he claimed to love? As they pieced together the evidence, the investigators could not help but wonder, what pushed a man, who once claimed to love this woman, to commit such a horrific act? Was it a momentary lapse of control, or was it something deeper, something buried within him all along? As the case unfolded, the story of André Romulus and his victim was far from over. The manhunt was just the beginning. And in the end, the truth about what really happened that night would shock everyone involved. Investigators uncovered chilling messages, text after text, where Romulus revealed his growing rage. But was this a crime of passion or premeditated murder? These weren't just words of a man who felt wronged. They were the words of someone who had become consumed by his emotions, to the point where he no longer saw his partner as a person, but as an object to control. And in his mind, she had failed him. Psychologist. Romulus displayed many signs of emotional instability. His behavior was characterized by intense insecurity, shame, and an overwhelming need to feel in control. These feelings, especially when combined with his fear of abandonment, can be devastating. They create a pressure that builds until it eventually explodes. Narcissistic tendencies are often rooted in a deep sense of inadequacy. Romulus needed to feel superior, but his partner's actions, her independence, threatened that sense of control. The messages he sent were an attempt to regain power over her. In his mind, her leaving him was an insult, and when combined with the years of emotional manipulation, it pushed him past the point of no return. The truth became clear: Romulus couldn't tolerate being abandoned. His twisted sense of pride, combined with years of emotional manipulation, led to an outburst that shattered everything. Romulus never saw it as abuse. He saw it as love. In his eyes, she belonged to him. But what started as an attempt to control her turned into something much darker. The crime wasn't just about betrayal. It was about losing control. And for Romulus, that loss was something he couldn't handle. In those final moments, Romulus was overwhelmed by his emotions. What began as a fractured relationship, filled with resentment and pain, turned into a violent explosion. The truth is, Romulus didn't kill out of passion, but out of a deep, twisted need to keep control. There were no second chances for the woman he claimed to love. And for Romulus, there would be no escape from the monster he had become. As news of the murder spread, the town of Chambersburg was left reeling. Neighbors and family members shared their shock and confusion. How could a man like Romulus commit such a heinous act? The neighbor. She was always so full of life. Always looking out for others, always trying to make things better for her kid. I just don't get it. How could someone do that to her? To someone like her? Family member, she wanted so much more than this life. She wanted to protect her child, get away from the past. She didn't deserve this, none of it. This was not just a crime of passion. This was the eruption of a long-simmering conflict, a tragic tale of love, control, and ultimately, murder. As Romulus sits in a jail cell awaiting trial, the community is left asking, can the justice system bring any sense of closure to the victims of his violence? Legal expert. The legal system can bring justice, but there's no real way to give back what was lost. The victim's family will have to live with this trauma for the rest of their lives, no matter what happens in court. While Romulus waits for his day in court, the pain of what happened reverberates through the community. The anger, the grief, and the confusion are impossible to escape. Everyone wants answers, everyone wants justice. Romulus' trial will soon unfold, but can the legal system deliver justice? And what will become of the young child left behind? As the legal process moves forward, one thing remains clear: domestic violence does not only affect those directly involved. It devastates families, communities, and entire futures. The repercussions are felt far beyond the walls of the courtroom. A child grows up without a mother, a family is torn apart, and a community is left questioning the safety of their own relationships. This crime has cast a long shadow, one that will never fully fade. Romulus thought he could escape his guilt. But justice has a way of catching up. Is this the end of the story? Or is there more to uncover about the cycle of violence and control? The preliminary hearing is scheduled. Will we finally get the full story behind the murder of this innocent woman, or will it remain buried forever? As we close this chapter, the story of Andrei Romulus and the woman he killed is not just a single tragedy, it's a reflection of the countless lives affected by domestic violence, a silent epidemic that continues to plague communities across the nation. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please reach out to the appropriate authorities or a support hotline. You are not alone.
Welcome to Shocking True Crime. Thanks to all our viewers and subscribers for your support. Stay with us for daily updates on the most shocking true crime stories. Don't forget to subscribe.